If your discipline dies without applause, it was never discipline. It was dependence. And dependence makes a man easy to control. A compliment moves him. Silence slows him. Doubt weakens him. One ignored message changes his mood. One unsupported day changes his plan. One person failing to believe in him becomes an excuse to stop building. That is not ambition. That is emotional government. And a man governed by emotion cannot build anything serious, because serious things are built across days when no one claps, mornings when you feel nothing, nights when the room is silent, and seasons where the world gives you no proof that your effort is working yet. Most men do not lose because they have no dreams. They lose because their dreams are ruled by unstable conditions. When the feeling is high, they move. When the feeling drops, they stop. When someone believes, they become confident. When someone doubts, they shrink. When the video hits, they plan. When the video ends, they return to the old life. That is not discipline. That is mood obedience. And the unsupported man cannot afford mood obedience. If no one supports you, no one is coming to refill your emotions every morning. No one is coming to remind you of your potential. No one is coming to clap for your small progress. No one is coming to hold your hand through boredom, rejection, humiliation, slow results, and invisible work. So if your plan depends on encouragement, your plan is already weak. You need something colder. You need law, not motivation, not hype, not another speech that makes you feel powerful for 20 minutes. Law. The unsupported man must operate from law, not emotional weather. Because emotional weather changes with sleep, it changes with hunger, it changes with one bad conversation, it changes with one person doubting you, it changes with one post that gets ignored. It changes with one day where you do not feel like the man you are trying to become. And if your actions change every time your emotions change, then your life is not being built by command. It is being dragged by weather. That is how ambitious men remain weak while still believing they are serious. They confuse intensity with structure. They confuse pain with progress. They confuse watching powerful videos with becoming powerful. They confuse feeling ready with being ruled. But readiness is not the standard. Obedience is. Today, I want you to see the loop that keeps ambitious men inspired but unchanged. Need praise, lose pressure, delay action, seek more praise, remain weak. That is the dependency loop, and it steals years quietly. First, you need praise. You want someone to believe. You want someone to notice. You want someone to confirm that your work matters. You want your family to understand why you are distant. You want your friends to respect your discipline. You want the market to respond quickly. You want the world to give you emotional confirmation before the evidence exists. But early ambition is ugly. Early ambition is awkward. Early ambition has no receipts. Early ambition is mostly invisible. No one respects the beginning because the beginning has no proof. You are not impressive yet. You are not undeniable yet. You are not rich yet. You are not skilled enough yet. You are not skilled enough yet. You are becoming. And becoming is usually silent. That silence exposes the weak foundation. Because when praise does not come, the second stage begins. You lose pressure. The mission begins to feel heavy. The silence begins to feel personal. You start thinking, maybe I am wasting my time. You start wondering why no one sees it. You start refreshing for signals. You start checking reactions. You start looking for a message, a comment, a sign, a small confirmation that you are not crazy for continuing. But listen carefully. You do not need more confirmation. You need more command. The man who needs the world to confirm his mission before he obeys it will never move with force. He will always be late. He will always wait for permission. and permission is often disguised as encouragement. Then the third stage arrives. You delay action. You tell yourself you will start tomorrow. You tell yourself you are just tired. You tell yourself the timing is bad. You tell yourself you need to get your mind right first. But what you really want is emotional relief before execution. You want the feeling to come back before you obey the standard. That is how dependence works. It makes action conditional. I will work if I feel motivated. I will build if people support me. I will continue if someone believes. I will post if I feel confident. I will sell if rejection does not hurt. I will discipline myself when life becomes easier. These are not standards. They are negotiations. And once you negotiate with weakness, weakness learns your price. It learns that if it can make you tired enough, you will quit. If it can make you uncertain enough, you will delay. If it can make you uncomfortable enough, you will hide. If it can make you feel unsupported enough, you will betray the mission and call it self-care. This is where most men lose. Not in one dramatic collapse, not in one obvious defeat. They lose through thousands of small permissions. A skipped morning, a delayed project, a hidden fear, a weak excuse, a lost hour, a postponed message, a promise broken privately, a standard lowered quietly. One by one, the future is surrendered. Then the fourth stage appears. You seek more praise. You return to the same emotional supplier. Another motivational video, another conversation, another post, another fantasy, another explanation of your dream, another attempt to get someone to tell you that you are special, and you do not realize what is happening. You are using encouragement like a temporary drug. It gives you strength without structure, belief without evidence, fire without system. And when it wears off, you are back where you started. Then the final stage happens. You remain weak, not because you never wanted success, but because you never built a system that could survive the absence of encouragement. That is the real humiliation. Not being doubted. Being dependent on not being doubted. Not being unsupported. Being unable to move without support. Not being ignored. Letting silence control your output. Machiavelli understood something brutal about men. He wrote, "Men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous." That line is not comfortable. It is useful. Because if men are fickle, then their encouragement will be fickle. If their attention changes, their support will change. If their interests shift, their loyalty will shift. If your discipline depends on the emotions of other people, then your discipline depends on the most unstable material on earth. That is why power cannot be built on applause. Applause is weather. Law is structure. Law does not ask how you feel. Law does not ask if the world noticed. Law does not ask if your friends understand. Law does not ask if your family believes. Law does not ask if you woke up inspired. Law says, this is the standard, obey it. That is the difference between the man who changes and the man who keeps restarting. The weak man needs to feel ready. The commanded man follows the law. The weak man waits for a spark. The commanded man executes the rule. The weak man seeks praise. The commanded man builds proof. The weak man asks, who will encourage me today? The commanded man asks, what must be done whether anyone sees it or not? This is the first cut you must make inside yourself. You must stop treating encouragement like fuel. Encouragement is not fuel. It is a luxury. It may appear. It may not. If it appears, use it. If it disappears, move anyway. The man who can only move when praised is not powerful. He is rented by the opinions of others. And the unsupported man was not built to be rented. He was built to become dangerous to his excuses. Not loud, not emotional, not dramatic, precise, cold, consistent. A man who does not need the room to believe before he begins. A man who does not need his family to understand before he builds. A man who does not need his friends to approve before he separates. A man who does not need the market to reward the first attempt before he improves the second. That is the beginning of command, not when you feel strong, but when you obey while feeling nothing. Private obedience is where real confidence begins, not public praise. Not someone telling you that you are chosen, not a perfect morning routine posted online, not a speech that makes you feel powerful for a moment. Real confidence begins when your mind sees evidence that you obey yourself. Every time you keep your word in private, your self-respect grows. Every time you break it, your mind records the betrayal. This is why inconsistent men feel secretly weak. They may speak with confidence, they may talk about ambition, they may consume powerful ideas. They may tell people they are building something serious, but inside, they know the truth. They do not trust themselves. They have watched themselves betray too many private promises. They have seen themselves quit when emotion disappeared. They have seen themselves need the outside world to restart their inner engine. This is a humiliating way to live, and the answer is not more encouragement. The answer is private obedience. You need to become the man who does what he said when no one is there to reward him. That is the foundation. Now understand this clearly. This does not mean encouragement is evil. Support can help. A strong circle can help. A mentor can help. A community can help. But help must be a multiplier, not a foundation. If support multiplies your existing discipline, good. If support is required for discipline to exist, you are still weak. There is a difference. A strong man can receive support without depending on it. A weak man collapses when support is absent. You are here to become the first kind. So ask yourself the cold question. If no one encouraged you for the next 90 days, would you still execute? If no one noticed your progress, would you still build? If no one liked your work, would you still improve? If your family stayed doubtful, would you still move? If your friends misunderstood, would you still protect the mission? If the market ignored your first attempts, would you still contact reality? If the answer is no, your system is too weak. Your identity is still too dependent. Your ambition is still waiting for permission, disguised as encouragement. And that is why you need a personal constitution, not a vague plan, not a motivational phrase, not a dream board, a constitution, a set of non-negotiable commands that operate whether you feel strong or not. It does not have to be complicated. In fact, complicated systems are often another form of delay. The weak man loves complicated systems because they allow him to feel strategic while avoiding execution. He builds the perfect plan. He organizes the perfect schedule. He searches for the perfect method. He watches another breakdown. He studies another routine. But nothing visible is produced. No offer is sent. No skill is sharpened. No post is published. No call is made. No money is tracked. No proof is created. The commanded man keeps it brutally simple. First, define the mission. What are you building in this season? Not someday, not in your imagination. In this season, a skill, a portfolio, an offer, a client acquisition system, a reputation, a financial buffer, a body that can carry pressure, a mind that does not collapse when ignored. Name it. A mission that is not named cannot command you. If your mission is vague, your obedience will be vague. And vague obedience becomes convenient failure. Second, define the daily proof. What action proves you serve the mission today? Not thoughts, not feelings, not intentions. Proof. A written page, a practice skill, a sent message, a completed sample, a published post, a tracked expense, a finished client task, a hard conversation completed, a weakness confronted. Proof is what separates men who dream from men who compound. The world does not reward your internal intensity. It rewards visible output. It rewards what can be seen, tested, judged, improved, bought, shared, measured, and repeated. Machiavelli understood that men judge by appearances and outcomes. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. So stop asking people to understand what is inside you. Make the outside undeniable. Build proof." Third, define the non-negotiable block. When does the work happen? Do not say, "when I have time." That means never. Do not say, "when I feel ready." That means you are still ruled by emotion. Do not say, "after life calms down." Life does not calm down for weak men. It only gets more expensive. If the work is not scheduled, it will be sacrificed. The world will take every hour you leave undefended. So defend the hour. Maybe it is the first 90 minutes of the day. Maybe it is after work. Maybe it is late at night when the room is quiet. The time matters less than the law. This block belongs to the mission. No phone, no negotiation, no emotional debate, no checking if you feel powerful. You enter the block and you produce. Fourth, define the review. At the end of the day, judge yourself before sleep. Not with hatred, with accuracy. With accuracy. Ask yourself, what did I produce? What did I avoid? Where did I act weak? Where did I obey emotion instead of law? What moved me closer to money, skill, proof, leverage, or freedom? What must be corrected tomorrow? This review matters because unexamined weakness repeats itself. If you do not judge the day disappears. And when enough unjudged days disappear, years vanish. That is how men wake up older, angrier, and still waiting to begin. They did not lose because life defeated them in one great battle. They lost because nobody forced them to examine the small betrayals, the skipped block, the avoided message, the excuse accepted, the fear protected, the comfort chosen, the promise broken. Law exposes these things. Law removes the fog. Law does not allow weakness to hide behind mood. Mission, proof, block, review. That is enough to begin. Not enough to complete the whole transformation, but enough to stop being ruled by applause. And when you do this long enough, something changes. You stop asking, "Who believes in me?" You start asking, "What evidence did I create today?" You stop asking, "Who will motivate me?" You start asking, "What law must I obey?" You stop asking, "Why does no one support me?" You start asking, "What can I build that makes support optional?" That is the turn. That is the movement from dependence to power. The world will not always encourage you. Sometimes it will ignore you. Sometimes it will misunderstand you. Sometimes it will mock you. Sometimes it will tempt you. Sometimes it will delay your reward longer than your emotions can tolerate. Good. That is why you cannot be ruled by emotion. You must be ruled by law. Because the unsupported man cannot wait for ideal conditions. He must create movement under imperfect conditions. He must execute in silence. He must build before belief. He must act before confidence. He must produce before applause. He must judge himself before the world judges him. He must become the source of his own command. This is the difference between the man who talks about changing and the man who becomes difficult to recognize. One needs encouragement. The other has law. One looks for praise. The other creates proof. One waits for the feeling. The other obeys the standard. One returns to weakness after the speech ends. The other keeps moving when the room is silent. Choose which man you will be. Because if your discipline dies without applause, it was never discipline. It was dependence. And dependence is too weak to carry the life you say you want. So stop asking the world to keep your fire alive. The world will be silent. People will misunderstand. Support will disappear. Your emotions will change. That is exactly why you need law. The man who needs encouragement keeps restarting. The man who obeys law keeps compounding. And compounding is quiet before it becomes visible. At first, no one sees it. Then they doubt it. Then they question it. Then they notice it. Then they ask how you changed. But by then, the answer will no longer matter, because you will know. You did not become different because the world finally believed. You became different because you stopped needing belief before obedience. You stopped asking for applause. You stopped waiting for permission. You stopped negotiating with emotional weather. You built a law. You obeyed it in private, and over time, private obedience became public evidence. That is how an unsupported man becomes undeniable. Not through encouragement, through command. Subscribe for the public truths. Patreon gives you the full execution system.